What's up, guys? It's Parallax Abstraction, and welcome to PXA Peeks at the early access version of Double Kick Heroes. This comes to us from a tiny team in France called the Headbang Club, which is definitely among my favorite indie developer games of the last little while, and it is very, very appropriate for this. This game is a new rhythm game that is based around heavy metal music, which are two things I can definitely get behind. And it's also kind of a light shooter, but not, it's really mostly a rhythm game. So this is actually a little demo mode that you're seeing here. So it kind of gives you, I actually didn't even know this was in here until I started recording. So it's giving you a little bit of an idea of what's going on here. So this is a game that's in early access, and you'll notice I haven't covered too many early access games on the channel recently, and that is because I'm becoming very picky about early access games that I cover. I like to say that I cover games that do early access right, which is that games that offer a decent amount of content in the early access release offer a very good idea of what the final game is going to contain, and which have a proven track record of being updated reliably by the developers. And this is definitely one of those. So you got a little preview of what the mechanics are like there. But so this game is boasting that it will have a large number of different factors in it when it comes out. It's going to have a full-length campaign, which I've played up to the end of, and as you can see here, is actually work in progress. You can't progress any faster than or any further than this. It will have an arcade mode, which allows you to play the existing levels in a score attack manner. It's supposed to have online leaderboards, though at least at the time I'm recording this, they don't seem to work. And one of the most interesting things is it's going to have a full level editor that is going to allow you to make your own tracks, attach them to your own music. Some of them will require you to actually have an MP3 of the song that they involve that you will have totally acquired in a fully legit manner, I have no doubt. And I believe others, they will be able to distribute the MP3s with them if the artists are in agreement of that, though I am not 100% sure, so had to be careful about that. Right now, the online leaderboards don't work, and I have not been able to get a user-created level to work. The game always crashes. So right now you're limited pretty much to the arcade mode and the story mode. But there is a lot here that I quite like. So I'm just going to I'm going to focus mostly on the arcade mode, but basically there is a little bit of a story here. An apocalypse has happened while this sort of band of misfits that are their own metal band were in the middle of a concert, and they're trying to basically lead a resistance to take back the planet from the mutants that are overrunning it. It's a really goofbag story. And there actually is a lot of writing in it, but it is, I mean, it's okay. There's a lot of language in it, and it's used in a rather kind of ridiculous, gratuitous way. So I gotta show you here what's going on. So just so you know, I am playing this with a controller, but this game uses a series of basic key presses, so this works absolutely fine with a keyboard as well. Honestly, the main reason I'm playing it with a controller right now is because I have a mechanical keyboard and I don't want the clacks picking up on the mic. So you're seeing the idea here. This is much like something like a Guitar Hero or a Rock Band. You're going to see the prompts or the notes in the track come along, and your goal is to time your button presses to them as well as you can. And that by doing that, your car fires guns at the enemies. So you have two different guns, an upper gun and a lower gun, which are each on their own buttons, and most of the time, at least early on, you're going to want to just alternate your shots, but the different guns will actually hit enemies in different spots on the upcoming track behind you, and you're actually going to have to, especially in later levels, use certain guns at certain times to get enemies that are coming from a certain direction. If you don't, then they will get to your car, which can only take a certain number of hits, and then you're dead. In most levels, the car is stationary like this, and you're just doing the musical notes, but there are boss fight levels, and I can probably show you one of those, where you will have to also control the car on an upward and downward path to avoid shots from the boss while you do damage to it. In later levels as well, and on higher difficulties, you will also gain access to additional weapons like grenades, for example, and where basically you have to hit additional notes to charge a meter up for the grenade, and then once it's charged up, you can hit those notes again to actually fire it off and do additional damage. There's also a sniper rifle in later levels, and timing that right in some of the later levels, particularly on higher difficulties, is absolutely critical. The game has a wide array of difficulty modes, actually, so I've played through the campaign, what there is of it right now, on the normal difficulty, which early on is not very difficult, but gets brutal near the end. I had a couple of levels that I had to retry many times over, and when you start playing on the higher difficulties, it gets absolutely brutal. Like, you gotta be an actual metal musician pretty much to do it. I'm playing this with a controller, though. I believe this game, if you have a USB guitar controller, the game will support it, which makes sense, as those controllers are basically just Xbox controllers. But the game does have proper mapping for it, which is excellent. You know, that's a good thing to have in something like this. So you're sort of seeing the little stuff here, and here are the local leaderboards that you have access to. As I said, right now, I can't seem to get the online stuff to work. So you're going to see what this involves here, and the story is very much like this. You will go on through all these different areas, having to take on different enemies and different bosses, and at some points as well, you'll also have these little pit stop things, which are places where they're basically holdouts where the resistance is. So this is a prison, there's also a casino and things like that, and you get to cycle through here and talk to both the members of your party and also the different resistance leaders that you're working with, and you will have to do missions for them and things like that. It's a nice little thing. Like I said, the dialogue in this kind of tries a bit too hard to have an attitude, in my opinion. It does definitely, it uses a lot of swearing in kind of a gratuitous way that doesn't really add anything. That's kind of a bummer, because it really makes this game not kid-friendly at all, whereas, you know, it could have been. So I'm going to show you the first boss mission here, so you get an idea of what's going on with this. So you see here, there's a fair amount of dialogue, not spoken. All right, so you see vertical steering. So you see how I can move up and down here now? Yeah, so it's tutorializing this, where you actually, you have to do this to not only hit the boss accurately, but to dodge his attacks. And you can also see there that my gun is upgrading. So yes, that is a combo meter. Your shots will actually become more powerful as you go, as you continue to land combos, and this will get you better score and also, I believe, more powerful shots. So you want to try to max this out as you can, though. Doing the combos later on in the game gets really, really tough. The multiplier will continue to go up. You don't have to land perfect shots, you just have to land good shots, which means that you have to land you actually have to land the shot, or the note. Here we go. See what I mean, where it says there with that, it's like, okay, you're just trying a little too much here. But so you just have to land the notes within that yellow square. So there's the boss there. And if you can do that, then it counts towards the combo. Though obviously perfect shots, I believe, result in better score as well. So you see where it showed warning there? Yeah, so you want to get out of the way of that. You have a fair amount of leeway, but you want to get out of the way. Otherwise you're going to take damage, and as you can see, you have to keep doing the music as you go about this. So there can be a lot to manage, and I'm going to show you what a song on the extreme difficulty looks like, so that you guys can get an idea of just how challenging this game can get very quickly, which is absolutely where a lot of its replay value is going to come from, though I have no idea how long the actual story campaign will be in this game when it's done. I actually finished North America, and apparently the next chapter is we go to Europe, so I'm guessing there's at least 2 continents worth of content, which is pretty cool. At the end of the day, what's going to keep you coming back to this game is the arcade mode, I think, and probably competing for score and things like that. The thing that's cool about this is this game was actually made by people who are musicians, and I believe were actually musicians before they were game devs. Oh, and I failed that out. Well, okay. So it has some neat features in it, like, for example, you can actually turn on a metronome. when you're playing, so it'll actually help you keep the beat. It will actually give you, there is a frame rate counter in this that actually also shows frame timings, which is really nice if you're trying to calibrate this, or if you might have a display with lag issues, things like that. There's a fair amount to it, which is something that I do like. You can adjust a fair bit in here. So you see here, you can go to the story. So you've got rock, hard rock, which is, I was either playing metal or hard rock, I can't remember, but it can get all the way up to extreme, which I managed to beat the first arcade level with this. So I'll show you what this is. But yeah, this game doesn't screw around. All right, here we go. So you see we've got grenade and sniper. Yeah, you're gonna see what happens with this. So the grenade and sniper both have to be charged up by landing the shots, as I said, and then you fire them off when you have enough. And you can choose to fire them or not. You don't actually lose any combos by missing grenade or sniper shots. So when you have the ability to fire them off, you may not always want to. You may actually want to save it for when it would be to your best to your benefit. Now, as you're hearing my commentary kind of get, off the mark here, unfortunately, this game has not solved the biggest problem of most rhythm games, which is that you have this action happening on the top of the screen, but you can't really pay attention to it because, especially on higher difficulties like this, you have got to stare at that musical track, and it really takes all of your attention. But this game takes the problem a bit of a step further than something like a Rock Band does, because in Rock Band, all the graphics are beyond the note track is just the performance. It's all sort of spectacle, and you don't really have to pay attention to it to like the game or to be able to play the game. It's really more for people just to watch who are, just sort of watching along. The problem with this one is in later levels and on higher difficulties, it's required to look up because, remember how I said before that you have two guns on your car and it can become critical which ones you fire? Yeah, well, that's the problem, is you gotta look up to be able to see what enemies are coming at you from which direction, and to know what to shoot at. And oh god, I swear to god I beat this song before, but this is kicking my arse. Oh no, there we go, we did it. All right, and I got a new record too, but you see I only got 67% completion, so that wasn't a new record. I totally didn't do as well as I did before. But that's the big problem, is you have to be staring at that musical track if you want to have a hope of maintaining the rhythm. But if you don't look up regularly at the higher difficulties, you are going to have a really hard time knowing where guys are coming from. And I was having trouble in the later missions on lower difficulties with that. I don't know how anyone who isn't a superhuman will handle this on later missions in the campaign in particular. I mean, we've all seen the YouTube videos of these friggin' savants that can totally destroy at Guitar Hero on Expert and going through the fire and flames and stuff like that. So I mean, hey, I'm sure it's doable. And I have never been. I like rhythm games, but I'm not particular. I am not esports at rhythm games. Let's just say that. So if you want a challenge, boy, this game's shoot, I overdid the button presses there, so you have to wait. So if you press too much too fast, you have to wait for a cooldown, which can really hose you up. So yeah, you gotta really pay attention in this thing, or it will absolutely kick the snot out of you. But people who are hardcore into rhythm games, that's what they like, right? And the interesting thing about this, too, is you can't just fail by missing a lot of button presses. You only fail when enemies hit you. Obviously, the more notes you land, the better your score is. So you want to try to land as much as you can, but you don't have to necessarily. So, yeah. In a general sense, I really like this. I mean, I like metal music. I love the aesthetic that this is going for. Like I said, I do think it's trying a little bit too hard with the writing, if I'm honest. But it's a really good fun time. Some kind of a multiplayer aspect for the arcade would be nice. Maybe we'll see that at some point later on. Let's pick something else here. So, Destroy and Race and Groove. I don't know what that is. That seems to be a level I've skipped. I'm not sure what that is. So, let's go up to this one here. You know, the music that's in it is good. You can actually buy the soundtrack to this already, at least the soundtrack that's available, which is cool. I like that they've made that available. See how the rhythm here is already speeding up a lot? Yeah, you gotta really pay attention. So, I do think this game generally is doing early access right. You know, I like the content that's here, gives you a very good understanding of what you're going to get with this. You have a campaign. It's not complete, but it is there. It is a little buggy, it is a little crashy, especially with the level editor, which is a bummer. I think the idea of community-made levels, even if you have to provide your own music, is an awesome idea. I don't know what would be involved in getting, say, Spotify integration or something like that in this game, so that they could say, hey, you need this track to play with this thing, but we can go get it from Spotify for you if you're a Spotify member. Something like that would be cool. I mean, the ability of loading in your own MP3s is not that hard. They actually make it quite straightforward, so that would be pretty cool. But yeah, right now, that's the limitations on the content you get, and at least as I am recording this, the online content, whether it be online leaderboards or the online ability to get levels online, doesn't seem to be working at all, which is too bad. But this team seems to be doing this well. They seem to be putting a lot of effort into this. It's a team of only 4 people, at least for their core. And I really love the framework here. I don't know if they can solve the problem of you not being able to take your eyes off the note track, but I hope they can figure that out, because as I said, it's far more critical to the gameplay in this game than it is in something like a Rock Band or a Guitar Hero. And if they're going to make it that way, then they either need to figure out a way for me to be able to take my eyes off the track, or they need to be able to give an indication within the track itself of what's coming. So, for example, you know, if there is an enemy coming on the top track and you need to focus your shots up high more often, then it needs to show you something within that to indicate that you need to do that without you having to look up. Because otherwise, on the higher difficulties, you're never going to be able to pass anything unless you memorize it, which you could do, but that's not the way I would like to do this. I would not want to have to memorize all the levels in order to make this doable, personally. But these are all things that they can improve on, and as you can see right there, you can press F8 from the main menu to report stuff to them, and they seem to be very, very responsive to feedback. So I think they have a great framework here. I think this game is already pretty damn fun, and it looks like it's only going to get better from here. But it is in early access, it is subject to change, and there are risks associated with that, so it's very important that you know that. But it is $15 on Steam. This is Double Kick Heroes, developed by the Headbang Club. I really love what they've got going here. It needs a little tuning, and obviously needs to get its content completed, but I love the idea here. I like a rhythm game based around metal, and I like that it's made by musicians, and I like that it can be just fun if you want it to be, but brutal if you want it to be. If you like rhythm games, even in its current state, I would recommend checking it out. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you liked what you saw here, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. That does help me out a great deal. I also do live streams over on Mixer at mixer.com/pxabstraction, and don't forget to follow @pxabstraction on Twitter to find out about new stuff first.